So I just wanted to first give the same slides that we did earlier during our during the session in Bangalore, so that we can jot everyone's memory on what we're really doing. I'll skip Samanvay Foundation, but Avni is essentially a data collection and case management software for field workers. You can go configure how your app should look like on an app designer. And that app designer essentially gives instructions to an Android app which you download from the Play Store on how to really show these things. So all these screenshots that you see at the bottom right are generated through configuration that is done on a browser app. Um, so through the AI Cohort Program, we wanted to build a copilot for Avni. I mean, there's a lot of places where we are saying copilot, we are now calling it assistant. I don't know what the difference is, but anyways, we thought assistant might actually be might sound cooler. Anyways, so the idea is that we want to build a copilot for Avni for users to be able to create applications with limited support from people who are building Avni from our team, so that the initial adoption is faster, it's easier, and it's cost effective for the organization that is adopting it. So we hope that there are more organizations who sign up to the platform and build by themselves if we give them a mechanism to build apps on Avni by themselves. So I just wanted to give a demo of what has been happening until now. Since last Monday, we've been live with the Copilot. So once you log in, this is the app designer of Avni. You see a chat box on the right-hand side. There is also like a way to look at what your previous chats were and maybe use it and continue your conversation there. And over here, so this is like a question, how to create my first form, and it essentially tells you how to do it, where to go, what to do, and things like that. You can also use, so here, what I work in slums in Bangalore, so it creates like a location hierarchy, and then it tells you how exactly to go about designing your application. So it says, go here, do this, and stuff like that. So that's essentially the status of this right now. Eventually, we don't really want it to actually say navigate to app designer, go to whatever. We want it to actually happen in the backend through this. So you don't even ask where can I set up subject type. What you do is I want this design. Okay, it will just say I'll do it for you. We're facing some small technical trouble in actually getting it done. We hope that will happen soon in the next release. Over here, you would also see that there are options to say thumbs up, thumbs down, and if you do a thumbs down or thumbs, you can actually give this. Looks amazing. And then submit it. So you could do things like that. You could also, if you don't like the conversation the way it's going right now, as typically what happens with LLMs, you can actually start a new conversation. And is this a new conversation? When obviously this is a very bad question to ask. So it would essentially say, I don't know what you're talking about. So how can I assist you? There is a bit of personalization that we've tried to add. So it will greet a person by the name of the person. So that's one bit of personalization that's been added to it. This UI itself, we didn't build this. This comes from an open source product called Diffie. I'll also briefly show what Diffie looks like. So this is kind of how it's done. Okay. So this is like your start. It looks like a flow chart. The first thing it does is when you get some content, it looks at our knowledge base and tries to. So this is essentially all documentation about Avni is in here. It takes all of this and gets any relevant content from it, and it passes on to the orchestrator. The orchestrator essentially decides what to do with it. So it can either say your question is not clear, or it's unrelated to Avni, or it can say it's a RAG LLM. So it's like something from the documentation. You should just look up documentation and answer. Or it could also say assistant LLM. Assistant LLM is the one that says this is how you should design your stuff in Avni. This is how you should actually go about and do it. So that's where the assistant LLM comes in. So it's more like the intelligent part of it, whereas this is more of the documentation part of it. And there is obviously one place where it is unrelated. So that's kind of the workflow that it is there. And what you can do is you can define all of this as boxes. Like if you look at, maybe I'll look at knowledge retrieval. It just says that you have to go to a particular place called the staging knowledge base and then get content and do stuff. Now the knowledge base itself is in a different place where you can upload all your documents. Uh, so this is the knowledge base. You can come here and say all of this is there. So let's say this guy, um, you can actually do a retrieval testing as well. So you can ask questions and you can ask if you can check if the chunking and everything is good here. It doesn't give too many options for you to change stuff. Like for example, there are like a bunch of standard things that it gives you, which is decent enough. So you can just upload your content here and hope that everything really works, would work fine. So that's about the that step of things. And the rest of it is like a long prompt that people use, that is used to um, design the system. Okay. And the one good thing about this that I noticed is also that where is that? Okay, let me. So there is this thing called the knowledge. So any conversation that you have, right? It's all over here. So we just did this asking about new conversation. So what you can see is all of this is happening, right? So now you can look at each one conversation, and if you from the workflow, it actually tells you what different nodes it went to. So it started, went to the knowledge retrieval orchestrator, it went to an if else condition, which decided that it should go to an LLM, and then it went to the final answer. And you can also see, okay, so is this a new conversation? And knowledge retrieval, what did the knowledge retrieval actually retrieve in this case? So if you look at this, uh, you look at the answer. So setting knowledge database, there is nothing that really came, some web app documentation, which does not really make sense. But that's what really came in when we did this. But the next level of LLMs actually figured out maybe this is not relevant. But it did send it to the RAG LLM and it came up with an answer. Okay. So that's about how to trace it. So you could also notice that each one of this, if you look at it, it would also say in the tracing how long each one of this took and how long the whole thing took. This thing took about 6 seconds, out of which the biggest is over here, 1.67 seconds. There's a 2.4 seconds for the orchestrator. So that is that's like a very short description of how things have been set up now. We also wanted to look at, so we were looking at trial users, people logging in for the first time. So we also have some level of analytics around what happens when person logs in, like how they're actually going through things. Are they clicking on the chat icon, and based on the chat icon, what happens and things like that. So there is something. So there's something that we are looking at actively to see what is going on. The other interesting thing about it, we'll come back to the presentation. So that's about the demo. On to learnings, because I hope, because all of us are building, right? So it might be actually useful to know what we thought were good practices and what are problems here. So the good practices, this is something we'd learned, is to use LLM as a judge. So when we create a prompt, right, especially for that assistant prompt, what we figured out was that every sentence you change here and there, the output changes significantly. And there are times when there is a bug. You might fix a bug in one case, but it might end up, it might come back after like the 20th iteration of that prompt later. So what we did was we automated this whole thing where we tried a few conversations with the AI, and then we took all the output of it and we sent it to an LLM for analysis to check if the output actually makes sense. All the code for it is right here. So in case anyone is interested, you can actually look at the code here. I'm going to just paste it on, I don't know where to find the chat. Over here. But essentially, the main idea is that an LLM, and I will also have a blog around it so that it's easier for everyone to understand. Um, But essentially, the primary idea behind it is that you can use LLM as a judge to see to decently say whether your prompt is still fine and if it's working according to the needs. We can easily iterate over things and still make sure that it is not making it is not breaking any of the bugs you created earlier. So one of the things we also did was a bug bash. So everybody in the company sat down once for writing the documentation to plug in gaps wherever there is no documentation. We actually asked AI to figure out like all the gaps in documentation. We also sat together to manually verify this. And then we sat for another hour to fix or create documentation wherever it's missing. That's one thing we think we did well. The other is to release soon. So get the thing released, because once you go live, right, you'll know that live feedback is a great teacher. So it tells you things that you would otherwise never know. These were the three good practices that we thought went on. Mistakes. So one thing we noticed was that there were, I mean, I told you, like, once we go to production, you'll know what kind of mistakes you've actually done. So there were people who reported that it was generating rules, writing JavaScript and things like that. So we realized that we'd never even designed it to do that. do that. So we had to quickly iterate over it, change it. It took about 10 minutes to fix it, but uh, getting live feedback in that way has been useful. Not all people have similar preferences. So there were some feedback around, I don't that said that this is probably not how it should behave. Like, this is not the way I want to steer the conversation. I want to steer it in a different direction. And whenever the user tries to steer the conversation to the same output but in a different direction, sometimes we've been finding issues. Um, Diffy version management is something that we found tricky. We're still trying to figure out how to fix it. A quick review about Diffy itself. I just demonstrated everything to you. So it provides a lot of stuff out of the box. There's a very good chat interface. It provides chat history and session management. It does multi-turn conversations all by itself. You have a mechanism for feedback, and even audio. If we want, we can get audio and things like that. So, and then it's a visual design interface. So it makes it really, really simple for someone to understand what's going on. Drawbacks, it's very opinionated. So there is no changes. You can't really change that UI. So we didn't really like this UI because one, it was coming on top of it, and there are quite a few things that we wanted to change about this. Like the icon, we didn't like the way the icon was set up and things like that. But yeah, we couldn't really do too much about it. So that is one drawback that you'll find. It's relatively hard to test, like compared to code that you directly write. It's slightly harder to test. Um, and you can't tweak too much. Like the rag that I showed you, there are certain things that you can change, like you can say which model it needs to use for tokenization, sorry, and everything. But beyond that, sorry, for creating the vectors, but beyond that, you can't really do too much about it. Um, and then there were a couple of bugs because of which we had to move some stuff out of Diffy. That's what I had mentioned earlier, where when you automatically do things, sometimes it fails. So that was one thing we found. So because all AI tools are relatively new, which means it will be like rife with bugs and stuff that you'll have to deal with. That's like a review about the field. But this is all I wanted to talk about. You can ask any questions.
This is really interesting, Vinay. I think thanks a lot for putting it together in such a structured format with the presentation with the good practices as well as the challenges. And I think just going through the presentation, I felt like that it can be leveraged, like similar things can be leveraged by a couple of other folks in the cohort as well. So would like to actually open it up to the cohort and would be good to uh, ask questions if you have any doubts, have a discussion over it. How did you decide on the project, on the product using Diffy? Did you try out other things?
We did try out a few things in between this. We have a list of things that we So essentially, we tried out a few things and then we realized maybe we'll write down like a proper requirements document and hand it over to an LLM, and that will give us like three things to actually look at. And we looked at those three and picked up what we felt was the best at that point. That's essentially how our research happened. We
Right.
initially tried a couple of things, but it didn't really work out, and we were not sure. We wanted to actually get like the entire list of requirements ready before, and then it's about Google search. So instead of Google search nowadays it's all search on Perplexity and stuff like that. So that's how it was.
So Vinay, thanks for the presentation. Very nice. You mentioned the RAG in Diffie is limited. So limited in the sense,
Sure.
can we give configuration for chunking, etc., or even that is little tricky
Uh,
to do?
you can give a bunch of things. Like I'll show you what it is. Maybe that's easier that way. So knowledge. Let's say I'll just create a new knowledge base. Import from file. So you can sync from website. So you can essentially crawl a website and things like that. So there are two different options you have to crawl a website. You can sync from Notion. You can essentially take an Excel file. Let's say think Python. I don't know if it does PDF files. Oh, it does. Awesome. So now there are these options. So you can do a delimiter. You can choose one delimiter for if you even if you have 25 files, it's just one delimiter that you can use for this knowledge base. Your chunk length, you can essentially go to 3000. In 3000, it is new. When you do 4092, it's gone. So I mean, it kind of intelligently says that there is a certain limit beyond which you can't chunk link. You can do like a chunk overlap. So these are specific things that you can do. Now, if you're asking me, like, what is the model here? You can't change that. What you can also, okay, so the embedding model you can actually change here. What you can also do is a full text search or a hybrid search. You can say, I don't want to do just chunking. I also want to do like a reverse index search, like things that uh, uh, like a full text search, like an elastic search kind of a thing. What you can do is you can mix them both together and add it. So this is all the features that are available. So as you can see, this is a very structured and opinionated kind of a way. There is no, it's not like you can do whatever you want. But it's not like it's absolutely useless. But beyond this, if you want to do anything, you obviously cannot do it all. That's what it means. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it. Think this gives a good idea. So
Yeah.
this slash n, does it mean it will do paragraph delimiting or just state a single sentence?
Wherever you
Yeah.
have two new lines. So I can do
Hmm.
like, I mean, I can put this as a delimiter. And we do this stuff like this. So for example, one thing here is like you have to add one file at a time. So what we had was like 150 files. So we had to
Hmm.
I mean, put all of them together and put like our own delimiters in between. So you can change
Got it.
whatever you
Yeah.
want in that.
Yeah, thanks. This gives a good idea what's possible. Thanks.
Hey, I just had a quick question about, yeah, Sasha here from Digital Futures Lab. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
off camera. Um, is the this is just kind of like trying to understand your typical user for this particular tool. Is the presumption that they have like a certain like level of tech savvy and like understanding of English to be able to interact with the bot? Like I'm just trying to imagine like a field officer that maybe doesn't know that they want to necessarily create a form, right? Or they don't know what they want their app to look like. They don't know that like the specific elements are like subject, like a subject type or this kind of a category. Like is there like a setup or a tutorial that's given to them, or is it just like they have to interface with the chatbot to kind of figure out what that is and then create it themselves. I'm just curious if you kind of experimented with prompts where the English is like off, or like they don't use the right terminology, and is the bot then able to pick up on what the person is asking?
So from a requirements perspective, what we are hoping is that the user knows their domain well, and they know that at least at a level where they need software to do things. Okay. Now, the domain terms, the subject types, as you noted, are specific domain terminology which they would not understand. Even if they are tech savvy, it's very hard to actually make them understand the domain of me. And that is the problem we are trying to solve. Now, at this point, what it does is like this is called a subject type. You navigate to this place and create it. It's like this is like your steps of doing things. You should go here, click here, and do things. That's how it is done right now. And there is obviously documentation, but I mean, we know that nobody would really go read documentation to figure out what the
How
heck this is,
to,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So
Unless
that
they know how
is
to use Avni, then like they're not going to be able to
correct.
figure out what that is called. Got it. Okay.
Correct. I mean, if they ask what is a subject type, the chatbot would answer. So that much we wanted to do. But eventually, what we are thinking is that like behind the scenes, it creates these things and it just tells you that these are the things I've created. You go download the app and see how it looks like and tell me how it is. That's where we want to steer it towards. But yeah.
Your question to when you mentioned like the learning of LLM as a judge, and you realize that like certain kinds of prompts probably result in more, maybe not accurate, but more appropriate sort of like outputs or conversations. Like, what were the sort of insight from that? Like, what sort of prompts tended to generate like an effective conversation, like or easy to follow conversation for a user of Agni, versus like what was the sort of prompt that kind of led to like a confusing conversation for them? Like, it would be just interesting to know what that was like, if you have any insight.
No, so the only thing there is, right, so when we write and we test this thing, we assume, because our minds are limited in the different ways in which somebody can actually ask a question, right? So when I do it, we get a certain thing, then I ask like a colleague to start testing. They come from a very different perspective, right? And then the kind of questions they ask will be different. So then you have to actually make sure, okay, there's one more like user persona or whom we can bring in. And then when it goes to the clients, the people who are using it right now, everybody is very unique in the way they interact with the system. So there is no specific thing that I can tell you, but like with every interaction we learn and try to like adjust it based on that. That's what I wanted to say. I don't know if that's what you asked.
No, that's fine. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any further questions? Questions, thoughts, comments? Anything?
10% charge left.
All right, I think there are no further questions. But thanks a lot, Vinay, for putting together the presentation and sharing the demo as well. We can, I think, move to. Sorry, does somebody want to say something?
Yeah, one question.
Yeah.
One question, Ashna, like here. Thanks a lot for the presentation. I just wanted to understand, like, you are sort of trying to change the system and you're trying to use LLM as a judge, right? Did you sort of do any sort of the error analysis, or what kind, how you're trying to sort of measure the difference, the qualitatively, like between one prompt to another, or one version to the another? Like, what are the techniques you people are sort of using it?
So two things, right? So one is the conversation. What we do is I say this is your objective, okay? you want to reach here, figure out what prompts you want to do, and have a bunch of conversations multiple times with multiple new prompts. And your output essentially is like a huge text file, right? Now, what we do is to the LLM, we say one is, so we have this output which you can actually manually verify, and you have the, we say these are 5 specific things on which you want to score it. Like accuracy is probably one of them. You say, is it, did I finally reach the, like, did it finally help me with it? That is yes or no. And that if you do it over 50 times, how many times did I actually finally reach the conclusion, the desired output? The second is, the like how polite it was, like where was it, like how was it responding, was it polite to the person? And that was one kind of, so like that we defined like 3 metrics and asked the LLM to score based on these 3 specific metrics. And what we say is that your score should not, if it goes below a certain number, it's a fail. So that's how we had set it up. And the scores will change. It is not like a constant score. It will change here and there, but we put a threshold below which we don't want it to go.
Just wondering, like, sort of how many conversations or how many sort of the you people have looked at where LLM has given something and you got a score, and you also as a human evaluated those scores and those conversations. How many of them you have taken, and what are the insights actually at first 2 iterations of looking at the score versus what the LLM has given versus what you people thought about it?
So yeah, so there were times when we changed the prompts and it deteriorated in its quality. So there were certain specific things we didn't want it to do, which it started doing. There were certain conversation flows, like for example, the way they ask a question was very different from what we expected. So then we had to actually plug in those things. So I mean, in that sense, it was helpful. The way we did it was right. So we identified 3 use cases. Okay, my objective is to build the Apni app for a maternal and child health application. That was one use case. So uh, you ask the you ask and talk however you want, and we made the tester LLM can hallucinate quite a bit, so it can go out of way. It might actually ask the wrong kind of questions, and the hope is that the actual LLM would steer you back to the original conversation. So these 3 use cases, and within each of these 3, actually, sorry, 5 use cases we took, and for each of these use case, we wanted 3 sets of conversations. Okay? And in each conversation, you have about 10 turns to determine if you're, sorry, 8 turns to determine if you finally achieve success at the end of the 8th conversation or not. So you go through the same use case twice, thrice, and by the time your 8th conversation is done, if it's not getting your answer, if the tester is not happy with the answer, then it's a clear fail there. Okay? Now going and at the end, it might actually end up giving the wrong result. That is possible in some cases. So we do that. Uh, so this is now 3 into 5, 15 conversations, each with 8 turns each. That is what we consider as one test.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Sure. Did you have anything specific though after this side, Ajay?
Okay, it's just that, so what we are also building is something similar. So what we are trying to do is that there are 2 components. We have the evaluation and we have the feedback component. In the feedback component, okay, if for a given idea, we wanted certain parameters, the LLMs to be give the feedback to the student. And we tested about different kind of models, and we are trying to now think about it. Okay, fine. One is that of course we can use the human beings in initial stage to see whether it is in line with the with whatever the feedback we wanted. But like in sort of if we wanted to put the LLM as a judge, and how do we sort of like quantify that and able to sort of look at only those where it is done really well, where it is done not well? Like what is that quantification look like? Something I was trying to understand from your process.
So do you have an expected output in each of these feedbacks?
Like the expected framework is there, like the not the output per se. For example, it has to reflect on the student idea. It's supposed to like sort of look for the some of the sources about the about the similar idea. It should be in a positive tone. So those are the overarching themes. Are like the how do we navigate that kind of prompt is there, and if it is in lines overall with that, I think it is good. So
Maybe we should take this offline.
yeah,
Rajshekhar
sure.
is also
Thanks a
here.
lot.
I don't know. Yeah, Rajshekhar actually might have like a direct answer as well for this.
Yeah, but I think we can connect offline also for this because this is very, very specific to one use case only.
Yeah.
The rest of the cohort, I think, basically can move on with the other thing. So, yeah, but thanks a lot, Vinay. It was really nice to see the demo, and that something has come out of the 2 months that we worked on as well. Yeah, we can move to the next demo, which is by Vebha from Simple Education Foundation.
Hello, thanks, Ashna. Also, a P take ready to share a bit about refresh the memory about what the project is, what we are building, and then I'll walk everyone through what the chatbot looks like right now. So, just refreshing the context, we are building a AI-enabled chatbot on WhatsApp that public school teachers will use, and we're going to do two different things through the chatbot. First is provide them contextual support through content dissemination, and the content is like the LLM model fine-tuned through SCF's knowledge base and like whatever the state they are in, the state's knowledge base. And second part is the evaluations part where we are trying to build a habit of reflection through the chatbot, through the structured prompt conversation, so that we can take that forward into making that an evaluative conversation with the teachers. So that is the larger idea of the chatbot. Currently, we are working more towards in a focused capacity for the pilot that we have planned for November in Uttarakhand. So how we're building it, we are using the platform turn.io to build the chatbot. It's a no-code platform where you can create workflows, journeys, and even collect your model through API for responses where you need AI to respond. And some context about what we are working towards right now. So during the process of like the last 1.5 months, we were thinking of building like the entire thing. But as time passed, we went through more discussions. We figured out that it would be better if we first try to build a proof of concept, like a prototype that we can test out, because there are way too many aspects of the product that will have to be modified, that will stay dynamic as the solution scales. So there's an assumption that the solution will work. That assumption will be tested first through this proof of concept, and then once that assumption is tested, we'll think of building it to maybe another tech stack that is much easier to scale, because we work with 3 different states, and we would want to at least scale it up to all the teachers in these 3 states. So some context, right now, like we are building it for Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand, some problems that we're facing is the access to these teachers is pretty difficult, and because they live in rural and mountainous regions, these schools are in rural and mountainous regions, where in a lot of places, internet connectivity is very limited, and even the tech proficiency is very, very low, even compared to some public school teachers and the other states that we work in. And just this is not really like a limitation. Just we are working towards. We are making the entire chatbot. We'll be making that entire chatbot in Hindi so that the user can use either of the languages, English or Hindi, to use it. Objective of the pilot, I think I shared that a little bit, validating the usability of the bot among public school teachers, and just evaluating uh, the adoption of it, because we'll be working at scale. So the orientation, dissemination of this entire product will also be through scale, different cascades of orientation through different stakeholders, reaching the teacher on ground. So we're also testing out that uh, decentralized delivery mechanism, and capturing reflection to test feasibility of reflection on WhatsApp as a teacher capacity evaluation medium. So basically, we also want to test. Maybe it's getting used for content dissemination, like coming back and back for getting the support that we're providing, but do they also engage with the reflection part that we're building in it? Because that is sort of the larger that is part of the goal of building that evaluation mechanism, so that the qualitative conversations that happen in the bot can be evaluated for assessing teacher competency, and just overall generating learnings for scale up across the three stages that we work in. So we are building through different platforms like WhatsApp, Turn.io. So some limitations that we currently are facing are like I've written them: AI response structure, platform limitations. Basically, one of the biggest challenges that we have been trying to solve and hitting roadblocks again and again is that the response that the bot, our model generates through the bot, it is supposed to provide a link to like the actual document that it is referring to, so that the teacher feels a bit more confident in taking that advice, and they can see where this is coming from. And what the bot does, maybe it's WhatsApp, maybe it's Sun.io, it takes the full stops in the link as end of sentences and goes to the next sentence. So what happens is the links get broken into three different sentences. And some platform limitations, for example, is simple character limitations. We need to make every option under 20 characters, or else it does not work. No user level context history post conversation. So another challenge that we are currently working with is that after each user completes one conversation, there's no history of that conversation that the bot can contain to refer to for later conversations. And just I won't call this a challenge, just like a big chunk of work that we need to get done is like build the ETL for all the data that we collect from these conversations. And last but not the least, another one of the challenges that we have is just like a latency issues. We have huge latency issues. Usually, like it takes a minute to respond, but a lot of times, like 50% of times, it can take more than 1 or 2 minutes to respond to like whatever the prompt has been given. So this was like larger context and what we have been going through while building this. Now I'll actually walk you through what the chatbot looks like for a user. Is my WhatsApp visible to everyone?
Not yet. We can see the Canva presentation.
So a second, I'll share it again. Is it visible now?
Not yet. Yes, it is visible now.
So the chatbot workflow is part, of course, structured workflow journeys that we have designed in the backend through trigger words and different options. And then in the end, we have given very little scope where the AI responds to the user, because of course we don't want them to start using this like ChatGPT. We want the use to be very limited and targeted towards just getting support from the classroom strategies that they are using. So I'll walk you through the onboarding journey. This is the journey that any user will see once, like for the first time when they engage with the bot. So it will start collecting metadata on some fields that we have defined in the backend, which will compose the user profile, which some basic contextual questions that we need from every teacher to build their user profile. Name, grades that they teach, designation that they have. PRT. PRT means a primary teacher. And some of these fields will be, of course, more structured when we decide which state this is going for. We're asking for 2 subjects if they're teaching any more. Okay. Once the onboarding gets completed, it'll move on to the general conversation, the general user journey that will start when any user just uses the trigger word, maybe hi, hello, hey, any. So right now we are working, we have moved more towards the teaching support journey, and we have not been able to design the reflection journey that is being designed parallelly, but not been onboarded on the platform. Support area. We are keeping it very targeted in limits, so we can also test the efficacy of the support that we are providing, not just the bot. So that's why this is very limited, and in the pilot it will it might be like much more targeted than this even. Teaching instructions, classroom engagement. So all these are contextual questions that the AI will refer to when responding to the actual prompt that the teacher gives. Mathematics. And we have like, of course, we have ongoing discussions going on about like the length of these questions, how many questions we are actually asking before we are giving them access to talk to the AI. But this is, of course, we are trying to keep it very short and limited so that the teacher does not get distracted or maybe demotivated that, okay, I do not want to ask 5 different questions before I get my answers. But this is something that, of course, we'll be seeing, monitoring while the pilot is ongoing to see if we need to tinker this during the pilot. Please share in detail. Now, this free text, the teacher can write basically anything that they want to, that they need support on. So, for example, I'll write down a very common situation in classrooms, in public school classrooms. Space in my classroom. Type of class. Fractions from the basics. So here largely they just need to share like the challenge that they have and the topic that they're teaching. उसके अलावा everything else has been referred to from this context. I'll just share this. Hopefully it will respond in the next 20 seconds. So this is the structure that we have put down for the AI to respond, what to do, why this is useful, how to do it, and then the link to the actual file that it is referring to. So this is looking much better in my laptop, but when it's opened in a mobile phone, this looks much more scattered. So we're also trying to fix the format a little bit so that it's more user friendly for the device that they're using it in. So, for example, it has referred to this strategy name, rotating learning station, from our knowledge base. So this is the link for rotating learning station. I'll also try opening this. I see. Just a second. There is a document to the rotating station. It will include every detail, even like tutorial videos about rotating learning station with examples on how you can do it exactly, where it can be used, everything. So this is what I was talking about, like fixing this link, because this is one of the most important part of the response. We want them to be able to access this along with the response that the AI is giving. And then it goes on to just build a feedback loop. Was the suggestion helpful in your class situation? Yes, it was. Thanks for sharing. What would you like to do next? And then they can again show me a new strategy that will again restart this entire conversation, close this conversation, and help me adapt this one. So help me adapt this one is something that we are building on, so that they are also able to prompt further into this on, okay, this is the strategy that you suggested. This may what else I can do. Maybe they want to understand it better. Maybe they want to try it with another topic.
Yeah, Vaibhav, as you were sharing the example, I think the example that I remembered was the one shared by in the title section. I think if somebody asks, students are very noisy, what should I do? And if any LLM suggests beat them up or something which is not
Yeah,
right, how do you go about it? So basically, I think the concept of guardrails becomes very, very important here.
yeah,
Um,
definitely. So
that is
for that, that, of course, that becomes very important. That for that we have been doing some prompt engineering, because there's very little that we can control right now with connecting our API keys with Turn.io. So this is also something that we are figuring out constantly while designing these journeys. So that is sort of it for the demo. We are also branching these journeys out as we get more time. We are planning for the pilot to be conducted in Uttarakhand, for which we are also planning these orientation sessions for all the stakeholders that will be involved. And then we have a complete plan, monitoring and evaluation, and sort of surveying plan on going and talking to teachers, seeing what they like, what they don't like. And then we also plan to tweak and tinker with things as we go on with the pilot. So yeah, that is sort of it for the demo. Please share if you have any questions or thoughts.
yeah, Tarunima, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks so much for this. This was quite interesting. And I just wanted to understand, you said that because this is all through turn.io, there's very limited you can do outside of their platform, right? But what is your like sort of observability tooling? Are you able to keep track of your inputs and outputs? And are you able to like sort of intervene? So is there any process that you can do after the input
Yes, we
and
have
before it goes to OpenAI?
after the input and before it goes to OpenAI. Oh yes, we can
Yeah.
structure the prompt on how the prompt needs to go to OpenAI. So if we can give it exact instructions on what it needs to do, what it now does not, what it should not do, all the guardrails. And Shadab has been doing. Shadab, would you want to share more about this?
No, I think that's. Am I audible first? Let me know that.
Yes.
No, that's all, man. So basically, before it goes to OpenAI, there are like instructions that can be given, context that could be built, and all the previous messages can be referred as well. And then like there is a whole section of defining the do's and don'ts for the AI as well, right? So that's separate from the chat, and that is where the AI agent gets configured. In between, there is also functionality to assign it to a human being if we feel like okay, this is where we want like a human intervention as well. So that also is a possibility there.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, then couple of thoughts on the feasibility again, sharing that uh, because this is Uttarakhand or rural parts of UP maybe. Um, would this work in low network connectivity? Would it work in regional languages? How would the accuracy be like? Secondly, primary school teachers are really overburdened already. Will they have the bandwidth to share that context, which is basically 7 to 8 questions before we asking the real question that they want to ask? All of those things, I think, will become clearer, I think, once we have the pilot.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like that's the idea sort of that we use the pilot as a proof of concept and then build this more independently, because
Yeah.
a very important part of it would be remembering each user conversation so that they don't have to go through this entire context again and again, and it can make the response and conversations more sort of adaptive towards what the user needs over a period of time.
Yeah. Any thoughts on how to reduce the latency, which is around 20 seconds right now?
So far, we have just been tweaking things here and there. We are trying. The latency is not high when we are letting OpenAI basically search the internet and respond. The latency is high when it has to search the knowledge base, because most of the time we are limiting it to respond what we have generated, right? So that is like vetted, that is created, that is tested and used in training and everything, right? So that is one place where the latency is getting a little high. I would say inconsistent most of the time. Like sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. And the other place where it is getting high is when it has to look up for the URL, right? For the resource that it has referenced for sharing the suggestion. So that is where the latency is getting like extraordinarily high at sometimes. So that is something that like we're still like trying and testing, like how we can reduce it. We've tried to improve prompts. We have tried to restructure the knowledge base so that like we don't have like full files over there, but just the context thing, so that like it's relevant and not like all the design elements are also going there, things like that. Uh, but again, like this is more like we are still monitoring it and seeing like what in which situation this is working well and not well, and probably we'll probably take a decision after that, like what is the SOP, what should be the SOP for us to maintain a few things that are beyond like tech, which is like more at a planning level and like the knowledge base and document creation level.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? If there aren't any questions, I think, yeah, we're closing right on time, almost on time. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining in. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.